Alright, so several people have asked how you make a patio cover in RealTime or in Uvision. So there's a couple different ways. I'm going to show you two different ways. The very simple, easy, and cheap way to do this is to build yourself a house. We're just going to go with a 20 by 20 here. And you can see, I know many of you guys use this program, you've got a house right there. And what you would do is come over here, you would change your wall height to 0. Change your elevation to 8 feet high, and now you've got an 8-foot high ceiling with no walls. So then what you would do is you would come over here and either drop a column in, or you could drop in a model with a box. So we'll just do this technique real fast, and we're going to, just for the sake of making it fast, we're just going to do a small little one right there. We're going to make the house transparent so we can see these, and we're going to Control C, Control V to copy and paste, and copy and paste, copy and paste. So now we've got those in there, and I've got one selected. I'm going to hit hit L to select all, and then we're going to, not raise elevation, we're going to raise the height of these. And right now they're set at 2 feet wide, and yeah, we got the 2 feet wide. We're going to change that to 1 on each of those. And so there you kind of have a patio cover that's got a vaulted hipped ceiling. If you want to change this to a regular ceiling, you're going to go back, select your house, and you are going to change the wall height to 1 inch, and that will set it to where you now have a ceiling in there, and you have technically a patio cover. Now you could go in here instead of, if you didn't want a hipped roof. A hipped roof is it's angled down on all 4 sides. If you wanted to do what's called a gabled roof instead, you would select Edit Roof Type, and come on, why isn't it working? Edit Roof Type and select your roof. On the angles you want to have the gable. And what gabled means is your roof angle comes up, and it's what's called a closed gable, which means this is basically furred down from the ceiling. Now, personally, if that works for you, that's great. I do not like those. I think if a customer's going to spend money on a patio cover, and you're going to spend the time at least opening the program, you at least need to do it right. So to me, this is complete utter trash. Now, I will say, dressing up these columns, then doing a hip roof for an existing patio cover, something like this would work. Not particularly, the gable, but for an existing patio cover, you dress up the material on these columns. Yeah, that works. Like I said, it's existing. It's not going to be your focus. You've got other stuff in the program. You're going to have a landscape design and stuff like that. It's going to draw away from the attention. Maybe you're building a kitchen underneath here, or you're putting in pavers, patterned concrete, something that's drawing your attention away from this. Also, you'll notice that this pitch right here, this pitch for this roof, is sitting at about 35%. That's going to be really high. I don't have the sheet in front of me. I've got a cheat sheet at work that tells me what the degrees are needed for like a 3 on 12, a 4 on 12, 5 on 12, 6 on 12 pitch roof. I know off the top of my head a 3 on 12 pitch comes out to like 13.8 degrees. So I always just type in 14, and that will give you a 3 on 12. I know it looks low, but that is correct. It just looks really weird on this style. Alright, so now we're going to delete this, because like I said, I do not like this. I think it's trash. So I'm going to show you how I build a patio cover. You don't have to build it like this. This is just how I build it. So, some of y'all have seen this before. Give my computer a second to catch up. This is my project board. This has different things I'm working on. This is also where I have all my lumber. I've got my posts that are pre-built, my rafters, 2x6 rafters, 2x8 rafters. Then I've got my beams, 4x12s, 4x10s, 4x8s. Excuse me. And I've got two different textures going here, two different materials, because I'm going to eventually be changing all of this. So, but let's go back to what we're going to be working on. Most of this is going to be done in plan view. So we still start out by in plan view, go up to plan detail, draw yourself a picture. We're going to go with a 20x20. So that's going to be the extent of our rafters. I'm going to tell you why here in just a second also. Now first we're going to box this whole thing out first. So the overhang, or from my center of beam to the extent of my rafter or my roof, I always set those at 1 foot 6 inches. So we did this 20x20, so we need to figure out where our posts and beams are going to sit. And like I said, I always do it at 1 foot 6 off center of beam. So it's also going to be the center of my rafters. So we've got 1 foot 6. We're going to come down to the other corner. We're going to do the same thing. With the magnet or ortho snapped, we're going to go to the corner. We're going to draw another little box. We're going to turn ortho or snaps, whatever you want to call it. CAD, it used to be called ortho, so as a force of habit, that's what I still call it. So those two corners are going to be the extent, are going to be two of our posts. To find the other two, we're basically going to build ourselves a box from point to point, and then we're also going to turn the transparency off. Something I forgot to do is turn off plan shadow. I don't know how some of y'all draw with that. I cannot stand it. But as I always say, to each their own. So that inside box is where we're going to be setting our beams and then our posts. But something else we're going to need to know is where we're going to put in our ridge rafter. And typically I'll make this a little bit thicker, and as a force of habit I always make it at red. And as a force of habit I also do the outside line a little bit thicker, and I actually changed that to green, and you'll understand why in a little bit. So now we've got our two extents. This is going to be our rafter extents, and we've got our beam and post. Now we go over to the project board. Normally I have this set on my right monitor, and I can just reach over there and grab what I need to grab. So we're going to start with just an 8x8 post. What that is the post itself is 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 feet, and it posts with trim. So if we zoom in here real fast, this is 8x8, and this is the trim work. This is my boot trim. It's a, if I remember this correctly, it is a 2x8 that wraps around the 8x8, and then a 2x6 that wraps around that 2x8, and up top is a 2x8. And we've got it set right here, so we're going to go Control C. We're going to bring it over to our actual project, and we're literally going to drop it in on the four corners. I've got my snaps turned on, so it's a little bit easier, and all I'm hitting is Control C and Control V. And we've got those dropped in place. Now, so our extent is going to be 17 inches. Now, you're going to want to check with your city municipality on what your largest span can be. Here in my area, the largest span I can go for a typical 4x12 board, or typical 4x12 Eastern Red Cedar, is 18.5 feet without having an engineered seal. Anything more than that, you have to have an engineered seal, And in my opinion, anything more than that, you have to use anything more than 18.5. You need to really be using an LVL or an engineered beam. That's just my opinion. And that's for the span, basically from post to post, or support to support. So both of these are going to be 17. Now, if you've been building these for a while, you know that you're going to have a rafter right here, and you're going to have a scroll cut right here. So we know this is 20 feet. These green lines are 20 feet. So you add a foot for the scroll cut on each side. So this is going to be 20 plus 1 is 21 plus 1 is 22. Now I'm going to show you why I do it this way towards the end. So we're going to put in a 4 by 12 by 22 beam on the length side of it. Now, if you're going with a hipped roof, you don't necessarily need to do that. You can just go with an 18 foot and cut it down to 17. So we're going to drop this in, and for this one we're going to do a gabled roof, and you'll see what that means here in a minute. So now we got to go from this post to this post, and same on the other side. That's 17 foot. Obviously, they don't sell 17 foot boards, so we're going to drop that in with an 18 foot. All I hit was Control C. I come back to my other screen and I hit Control V. I'm going to drop that in there. Then I'm going to reduce the length. Oh, I grabbed the wrong thing. Let me. These are the ones that I've been working on. If you'll notice, they're just labeled as a box, because that's the project that I'm working on. And hopefully, here's a 4 by 12. I was grabbing the wrong things anyway. Here's the 4 by 12 by 18, and you'll notice I have these set as accessories. So we had the 22 first, and I apologize for that mix-up. Hopefully you guys won't have my head over it, but you'll understand why in the long run. So we got those 22 footers. Now we need to go grab those 18 footers. At least I caught it early on in the design. So we got those 17 footer. We're going to uncheck scale evenly. We're going to change this to 17 feet. And then we're going to copy it down. Oops, Control C, Control V. We're going to put it on the other two. And we're going to center it so the ends are hidden inside the other one, inside the other beams. Now we've got these on the ground, so we're going to hit L, and we're going to raise these up so they're sitting on top here. And I actually told you guys reverse it. I had it reversed on the what's my boot and what's my trim. So we're going to raise these up so these are sitting on top of the posts. Now you'll notice these posts are only 8 feet high, but yet this is reading out at 8.4. So it's a little bit off, so you want to pay attention to that. That's it was in how I created them, basically. I should have paid a little bit more attention, but you know, it's a file for me, so I really don't care. So now we have our posts and our beams. So one of the other things when you're building a patio cover, your rafters have to be set at a specific distance apart. For all of ours, whether they be a patio cover or an arbor, give me a second to get back on here. We set our rafters at 16-inch spacing, or 16-inch on center. So I pre-made this so I can basically drag it in and drop it, and I don't have to mess with it each time on wondering what that actual distance is. So you want to center one of those lines on your beam, And then you want to follow it, just Control C, Control V, and you want to follow it out to the extent of your patio cover. And then we're going to hit L. So we're going to select all. We're going to edit points. And we're just going to grab these so we can pull them all the way across. So now we're going to be setting in our rafters. Hopefully you know all the terminology I'm using. Rafters are basically what holds up your roof or holds up your lathing on an arbor. If you don't know, these terms, you probably need to do a little bit better research on parts of a patio cover before you go designing them for people, unless you're gonna be having somebody else design it. So the span on my rafters is gonna be a little bit less than 10 feet. I'd probably be okay with a 2x6 for that. So I'm going to go ahead and use the 2x6s, and we're going to start at 2x6x10 so we can see if those will work. So Control C, and you're going to go over to your design, Control V. So we know the 10 feet will work, but what we're not considering though is this is going to be at an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that and show you why this will not work. So we're going to raise this up some. And like I said, I know that the distance, or I know that the degree for a 3 on 12, I know is going to be about 14. So I'm going to change this to 14. So now when I go back, it looks like it's hitting, but it's not, because remember, it looks like it's okay there on the red, but here on the green on the extent it's not. So a 4x10 will not work. So you need to go back and grab your 4 on 12. I'm sorry, your 2x6x12. Control C, Control, and go onto your design. You Control V. Now a lot of the design build guys are like, oh, that's going to be a lot of waste. I'd much rather make it just a couple more feet shorter, and hey, I'm just doing this for design purposes. In reality, I would make this, I would go ahead and try to push instead of doing this at 17, I'd push this to go, to 18 and a half, to try to get the full use of that board and sell the more square footage to the customer. So now we're going to raise this up. And we're going to change our pitch or our degrees to 14. Now, the way you want to get this set and get it set correctly is you want to put your ridge rafter in here. So if I'm running a 8-foot ridge rafter, I'm going to need to run at least a 2x10. And I don't have them in here yet. Could have swore I did. Oh, there they go. A 2x10 by 20. So we're just going to grab a 22. Ridge rafter. And Control C, Control V, drop it in here. Center it. And scale evenly is already deselected, so we're going to change this to 20. And we're going to center it on that red line. We're going to go to our green line and just barely go inside there. And it's just a little bit off down there, but no big deal. And then we're going to raise this. First, we're going to raise our roof rafter. Now you want to have that corner tucked in there, because remember, because you're going to do that cut to encase that beam. So you just want to have a little cut a little bit into that rafter. Now we're going to raise our ridge rafter up. So you can see that we are long. So now what you'll do is come in here, select your rafter, and it's actually easier to grab the rafter in perspective view. And now we're basically just going to shrink this 12 down so it's at the red and at the green. So it's a little bit overhanging here, but remember these boards are at an angle. So that angle is going to be hidden inside that ridge rafter board though. So you're going to be okay. So I'm at that extent. Now I come over here and see if I'm hidden. Excuse me, my top is hidden, so I'll be okay. The other ridge rafter is going to come in on the other end, and both ends are going to be hidden. So we've got that set now. Our ridge rafter is set at the height we need it. We know that that's set at the length that we need it. So now what you do is you'll just Control C, Control V, and you're going to hide each one of these just past that green line. And actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to cheat just a little bit. I'm going to hit L. It's going to grab the two of those. We're going to come down here. Now on your overhang for your gable end, you still want to stick with that 16 inch, even though we said we're doing the 20 by 20. It's going to be a little bit short. But you want that 16 inch on center because that's what you're going to tell the city that you're going to do. And some of you know how much of a God complex some of those city inspectors can have. So we don't want to risk anything. We want that black line centered on our rafter. So I've got two of those in there. I can hit Control C, Control V. I can drop two more in. And get those set perfectly on there. Now I can hit L. Instead of having two, I'll have four now selected. Control C, Control V. And I can bring these over here. I don't know how many we're going to have now, but I'm going to hit L again, and I'm going to do Control C, Control V. I'm going to pan out. And we're going to drop this one in here. And that's close enough for government work. And we actually ended perfectly, except this one needs to come in just a little bit. And we go back to perspective view. Apologize for my phone going off. Let me see which one it was. Yeah, it's this one. So we're going to grab that one real fast, and we're going to put it on that green line. Now we could actually go all the way out to here. We're still within our span, but we're just going to set it there anyway. Now when you have all of those, the easiest thing to do, hit L, Control C, Control V, bring it over here to the other side. And yes, it's still sitting the same way. But guess what? All you got to do, rotate to -14. And bring it down here. Just match it up. And I accidentally clicked on something else. And excuse me, we are pretty darn close. So now what you have is you've got your framework basically for a 20 by 20 gabled patio cover, open gable patio cover. So we've got that. What we still need to do though is we still need to put our ceiling in there and our roof. we also want to put in knee braces. So something that you can do for the knee braces, go back to the project board and just Control C, come back over here to right job, Control V, and then you're going to rotate this and rotate it 90 degrees. And then all you got to do is put it in place. Now, when I do my knee braces, they're actually not truly how they'll be in the field. And I'll show you why. If you notice, I've got a little bit of a lip right there. That lip is going to be hidden within my beam. So what I'll do is I'll drag that over. And something else that you'll notice, oh, I don't have it on this one, but on my other one I have it set to 3 inches, so it hides a lot better. So on the top, on the beam, I have it just barely hidden. But what I do for the side is I have it actually buried all the way to the edge of the beam. So I'm just a little bit off right there. You can see it. I'm moving it towards hidden in the beam right now, and I'm moving it to the left. So it's just hidden within my post. If I bring it all the way over to the edge, which I'll go ahead and do, to me, it doesn't quite look right. I've never liked the way it looks. So I just, in just my personal opinion, I bring it all the way to the edge. You can do however you want to do, though. There are your patio covers. Right now I'm just setting it in there, and it looks like I'm good. So now what I'll do is just do it for all 4 posts, and I'm not going to do it perfectly just because I'm trying to not make this video too long and boring for you guys. So I'm going to try to move just a little bit faster on it. So I've got those 2 on the inside done already. So now we're going to do these. And we're going to pretend like that's hidden perfectly. And we're going to come over here, do the same thing. Come on. And close enough. Now we're going to do the other 4. And again, this isn't the only way to do this. I'm sure there's other ways. This is just a particular way that works for me. You know, this program wasn't necessarily built for doing patio covers, but I think I've done a pretty good job of making patio covers. I mean, heck, the customers seem to like it. They keep on buying them, so you know, that's good enough for most people, right? And we're going to come over here, do the same thing. And one last one. And that's good enough for that. So now we've got the knee braces in for our patio cover. Okay, so now probably the part that maybe confuses a lot of people, or maybe some of you guys are like, holy cow, I don't know how to do any of this, or some of you guys may be thinking, oh, Quinn, you're an idiot. But now we're going to put the roof on there. I'm sorry, we're going to put the ceiling on there. So what I did was I just selected modeling box. Then I selected on one corner. We're going to go to the middle, drop it in there, and we're going to change this height to 1 inch. Now, this is going to run that same angle of 14 as our rafters did. And this particular roof, like I said, we're going to be doing a gabled. We're going to do a tongue and groove. I'm sorry, open rafter, tongue and groove. What that means is the rafters are going to be seen, and above that rafters, I'm going to have tongue and groove material. And then I'm going to have my OSB, but I'm not going to put my OSB in there, I'm just going to put shingles on top of my rafters because you wouldn't see the OSB anyway. So you just want these just above your rafters. So the rafters are poking through, so you're just going to set this just barely above it. Now since it's at an angle, we do have to make it a little bit larger than 9 feet 11. So I am just barely over. Let's bring it back. Oops. Let's bring it back one time, see how we sit. We're sitting okay there. And we're going to have one more board on top of this, so it is okay that it's sitting flush with my ridge rafter. So you're going to want to change this material. Like I said, we always use TNG, tongue and groove. 107 seems to be a pretty good match with this, but the size is obviously too big. You know, that is not the size of TNG. For me, my mouth is starting to get dried out. Give me just a second. For me, the size of 1 foot 3 inches seems to look good for TNG. And that's what that would look like. So now we're just going to do Control C, Control V. We're going to change it over to negative 14%, or 14 degrees, sorry. And we're going to bring it over to, one of the easiest ways to do this is to bring it over and match the extent of your rafters, which is at the extent of that green line, so that should be pretty good. So now we've got our TNG on top. So now the next thing you want to do is do your roof. So I've hit L to select both of those, Control C, Control Shift V. What that is paste in place. Then we're going to raise the elevation just 1 inch, and we're going to we're going to extend the width 1 inch. We're going to change our material, show all material. We're going to go to composition, and let's go with these shingles. And they're obviously pointing the wrong way, so we're going to rotate the angle 90 degrees. So there you basically got, well, almost have a open gabled patio cover. But something like that, you really do want to have a gable brace in there. Control C, go back to the design. Control V. Here it is over here. Now we need to rotate this, and let's rotate up first. And we need to rotate it so the thicker end is on the outside. As you can see, my gable brace, they start at 5 feet long, 6 inch wide. Typically we'll do a 2 inch wide. I've just got it at 3 to help me when I'm messing with some of the other stuff. And then we're going to raise this up into place. And we're going to turn the snaps off. And we're going to raise this up just a little bit. And one of the reasons it's set at 3 and not at 4 inch, it really should be set at 2, but it's because I want to bury it within my beam. So obviously this is too long. So we are going to reduce this down. 3 feet should do us. And I'm hidden on the top, hidden there. So I'm good to go there. Now we want to do our angles. Control C, Control Shift V, paste in place. And we are going to turn it at a 45-degree angle. You want to make sure there's a V right there. because when you're placing this board, you want it to set up just like that on that little bottom corner and on the top wherever you need it to be. And it's actually sitting pretty. Everything for the most part will be hidden. So now we're going to go back to the Gable brace, Control C, Control Shift V, and we're going to go -45 to go the opposite direction. We're going to drag it over, make sure it's buried, drop the elevation down, and now we're good on that end. So now we can just hit L, Control C, Control V, and we're going to put this in on the other side. You just want to center it as best you can on the ridge rafter there. So now we've got that hidden, and it, like I said, that's open gable. If you wanted to make it closed gable, what you would do is you would basically put a ramp here. I'm still under modeling ramp, so you would draw it in place, or draw kind of what you're looking at, and then you want your width to only be 1 inch. You're going to pull it over, you're going to raise it up. Now your gable brace, you'll typically always see it on the outside, unless you do a double gable brace, which you'll have well, if you were to close this gable, you'd be using tongue and groove material, so you would have trim on the bottom here and on the top, and you could do gabling on both sides if you wanted to. For this, I don't put my bracing in for my patio covers, basically because a customer would never notice that much detail. So I don't particularly worry about it. For your length, you basically just want enough to where it's closing that opening. Now this part won't show up on your project material list. I guess I should show you guys that real fast. The roof and your fur down on your gable closing won't show up. So you'll want to run figure out what your square footage will be. And it's just a little bit high right now, so we're going to raise that height down. Now we're going to turn this into that T&G material, which was deck and fence boards. We used 107 before. It's still set at 3. We need to reduce that down to 1 foot 3 inches. And then we're going to change our angle to where everybody's a little bit different on which way they run their T&G for their closed gable. We run ours vertically, basically because that's what our scrap is, so we can get rid of a lot of our scrap pieces here instead of cutting all new ones. And that would be the angle I would have here, and basically I would copy this for this side, the other two sides, and then also the outsides. But I don't really think you guys need for me to show you how to do that. You basically saw how I did it. You just do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 more times, doing it for the outside. And the reason you have to do it for the inside and the outside, as you'll see, the angle here is incorrect. So basically what you can do is Control C, Control Shift V, and you're just going to barely move it out just a little bit. Change your angling. Now what you could do, I guess I'll go ahead and show you this, it's a little bit of a secret, is L. I've got both of those selected. Control C, Control V. I did Shift by accident, but it's okay. And I basically drug this over here, and we're going to go inside and set it. We got that there. So what we can do though, Control C, Control V, and I don't know how many patio covers I built before I realized that this little trick, and I'm on the wrong, no, I'm on the right one, and just rotate that puppy around. Then bring it in here. And we're almost there, almost there. Bingo. Oh, man. Bingo bango. And we gotta do the other side. Do 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 do. Alrighty, so now we have got a gabled close. We started to do those saw cuts. So one things you can do is these layers are just there because on my layer board or on my project board, these are identified in different layers. So when I copied them over, it brought them over with the layer. So that's something whenever you're setting up your project board, you need to kind of remember that. I didn't realize that at first, so I was, kind of surprised by it. So let's say you got to put furniture in here. You're on your plan view. You can't see nothing. We don't need these measurements anymore, so we're going to go ahead and delete those off. But you can't see anything, right? So go ahead and select your roof and ceiling and move them. I have a roof layer. Sometimes I have our own ceiling layer, but I'll have these hidden whenever I'm printing and whenever I'm working on stuff. If I want to put furniture, or if I'm building a kitchen down here or anything like that, I'll have those hidden. So one of the other things we need to do is we need to put in a scroll cut on our beams that overhang. So our scroll cuts are always 1 foot long, and I know I've got these beams an extra 2 feet, one on each side. So I can simply come in here, make sure scroll evenly is unselected. They're 22 feet right now. I need them at 20 feet because I know I'm going to add in a foot of a scroll cut. So I go over here to my project board, and we were using this scroll cut before. We're not using it anymore. We're just going with a plain Jane. So I'm going to Control C. I'm going to come in here, Control V. Thankfully it's not too far away. And we're going to come in here, and we're going to rotate it so it'll fit in place. And this is always a mystery to me, no matter how many times I do this, on which way it's going to be. You can kind of see the grain of the wood on which direction it's going. If you really wanted to, you could make a bunch of beams with the scroll cut on them already, so that way you won't run into what I'm about to show you. So we're going to move this up into position. Move this up. We're going to slap it right in there. It looks like it might. No, it's going to be okay. So you see how it's got a variance in the grain? You can go, if you were to make this board or this beam when you're custom making it, if you were to make it all at one time and then do your scroll cut on that beam itself, you could fix that. And I see one little mistake that we did. That is too low. That is our tongue and board for the closed gable. So we're going to raise that up so it's out of sight of the customer. I'm not too worried about it there. And if I make it shorter right now, I'm going to have to redo all of this. But typically I'll have it hidden right there. And being that I'm trying to not take up too much of y'all's time, I'm not going to mess with it. But typically I have it hidden right on top of my beam. So now I've got that one set. Control C, Control V, and drag it over here to the others beam, set it in place. One other thing you can do is go into plan view, and if you wanted to make it a little bit shorter, you could. You can see how I can barely see that corner. Just move it to its in place. It looks like it's a little bit off. So now it's in. And we're going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. So I'm going to show you guys another shortcut. Alright, now that I've got both of those in place, what I can do is I can just hit Control L, Control C, Control V, flip them around, and if we're lucky, we can get these puppies to match up on the flip other side. Looks pretty good. Looks good. And looks good. So that's basically how you build a patio cover. So let's go ahead and take the roof back. Now if you wanted to get even fancier, and since I moved those over, those are showing the gable. I hate that. So let's go ahead and, it's because I raised those up, so we're going to raise that height down. And it changed that angling of the gable a little bit. But if I select all, it's going to change all four of them when, I'm sorry, all 8 of them when 4 of them need to be changed one direction, 4 of them need to be changed the other one, so we're not going to really worry about that. Now you could, if you wanted to, find yourself a gutter system. I got this off the 3D SketchUp. So I've got a couple different components. I've got the gutter downspout, the gutter. I've got a gutter cap, and I have a gutter 90. This gutter, reason I have a gutter cap is if you look at my gutters, and like I said, I got these off of 3D Sketch. I got the gutters, downspouts, and 90s off of 3D SketchUp. The gutter cap I had to make using the extrusion feature in modeling. So the gutters will have a flat side and then a curved side. So you want to set them whatever color you're going to set your gutters at. And you'll want to, I'm not going to make this all perfect for you, you guys know where I'm going with it. Then you want to set it at 20 feet, run it straight across. And then if you want to put in your gutter cap, and what that is, as you can see on that gutter, just right there, you can see it's open. Now this little bitty piece right here is just a gutter cap to put on the end of that. Now I got that stupid song stuck in my head. So I'd basically put that on each side of those, and I would basically drop that right below that roof line, and then I would put a downspout on either this side or the face side or the side of the post, and basically I just run those all the way to the ground. Basically all the time. Sometimes we'll run it into a pipe into the ground, and sometimes we'll just put a 90 on there. I let that be determined out in the field though. It's a nominal charge, so we don't necessarily worry about that with our customers. But the downspout, we'll just slap gone this far, right? And just grab the downspout, and downspouts are typically 3x4s, so they do have a face. A 4-inch is your face. There are some jumbo sizes that are a lot bigger. Our gutter guy, he'll typically go with 3x4s though, and then what I'll do is just come with a small little bit of a downspout, and then I'll 45 a downspout over to connect to this. And usually I'll butt that right there. Something like that. Yeah, it does get messed up with the trim work, but it's not a detail I'm going to overly worry about. So, one of the things I showed you guys early on was my project board, and then how I copy and paste it. And you would do this for, this side, put your downspouts, run your gutter the rest of the way, stuff like that. But for the most part, we built this how it would be built out in the field. So, the advantage to doing that is basically I went to Tools, Project Material List. You can see how many rafters. I've got 32 2x6x12s. End cuts, what were my end cuts? Those were my scroll cuts. I've got a 4x12x18 beams. I got 2 of those. I got 4x12x22 beams. I got 2 of those. Gable braces, whatever size wood, you basically want to mark your length and then multiply that by 6. Posts with trim. So you're going to remember this is how many posts you have, also how many piers you have. Piers are the things that cost the most. Well, actually, the beams probably cost the most if you were to break it down. And then also your woodwork for your knee braces. And then, so this is basically kind of like a checklist to make sure you're counting everything, because you're going to have scrap wood in there that you want to take into account. So you'll take that into account. Some companies you'll do square footage of actual patio cover. That square is still there that I have, that 20 by 20. So that's 400 square feet. So you got that right there on your plan. So there is a reason for my madness of having that project material list there. Something else to remember, and I'm sure if you're designing these that you're going to be bidding these. This, although it is half, if you're calculating for your roofing material, your OSB board, and your tongue and groove, this is not 10 by 20. This is an angle. There's a multiplier out there. If you go to the website, or if you go to a web search Google for like roofing materials, they'll have a calculator on there. You'll put in your pitch. Like I said, this was a 3-on-12, but this is at an angle. It's not at that true 10 feet. Now, it will give you the square footage. I don't trust this. It has an area of 4 by 16.4. I don't trust this. It's messed up on me before. Also, do not trust your square footage of your fur down for your gables. If you wanted to, though, you could use your gable brace. Typically, on a 3 by 12, 3-on-12 pitch. On a 20 by 20, this is going to be 3 feet, so you should know how to figure out the square footage for this. Basically, for square footage of a triangle, it's length times half the width. Or you can do a square and divide by 2, whatever's easier for you. So that is basically about it. A hipped roof takes more work. If enough people show interest, I will do a tutorial on how to do a hipped roof. Let's say you want to do a ceiling on this, though, since this is pretty fast. If you wanted to do a ceiling, we've still got, if you can barely see, and I'll go ahead and change the color of this. This right here is I'll change the width, and I'm changing this to blue. This is where our beam is sitting. So if you wanted to put in a ceiling, you could simply draw this square in here, change the height to 1 inch. Right now it's sitting on the floor. Excuse me. You would raise this up. Now if you wanted to have a drop ceiling, basically a ceiling underneath your beams, and you put in trim work, you could do that right there. Or you could put this just on top of your beams. Actually, this is just below, but it's hiding the rafters. And then you would change that to like a stucco if you want a hardy board look, or if you were to put the hardy board in there that looks like TNG, you could change it to that texture. If you wanted to build a soffit and fascia, you basically build a box. This one's a little bit of a finesse trick. So you're gonna raise, if you're building a soffit and a fascia, you could basically put this to just where it's at the bare bottom of your rafters. And you would want to see right now the bottom of our rafters are buried. Then we would just barely raise this height up. So you can just barely see those rafters right there. So you just barely take that out. And then you would want to change your outside rafter to match the material of your soffit and fascia. You could also do this same trick. You would do this on the other side, but that's actually not what I'm going to show you because that's pretty self-explanatory, but you would want to hide it on your gable also. So we would want to go, it's still going to be that same 14. Now your length, it's going to be, I think it's going to be the same as your rafters, it's 10.5. So we're going to change our length to 10 foot 5. And then we're going to finesse this in here. Now this definitely is a finesse because you've got to, damn it, gently bring it in there. And you'll have to, you know, change the width and whatnot of some of your stuff. And turn snaps off so it moves a little bit easier. So I'm going to be a little bit long on that side, so I need to reduce it down a little bit. And actually on this you could take that tongue and groove ceiling off if you wanted to. Probably make it a little bit easier. So now you've got a soffit and a fascia for, you got a soffit and fascia out here, soffit and a fascia right here. I would end up taking this out because it would be buried. And then you would just duplicate this on all sides and you would have a soffit and fascia for your patio cover. And that's basically how you do it. If like I said, if enough people show interest, I'll show how to do a hipped roof. That does take a little bit more work because you have to you have to change stuff to custom, and it's always a little bit more difficult doing it that way. But like I said, if enough people show interest, I will go ahead and do that. If you want some one-on-one help with that, feel free to reach out. And subscribe and whatnot to the page, because I'll keep on putting stuff out there. But thank you guys for watching it. Subscribe and like the page if you like what you saw and want to see some more stuff.